Well, we felt it was really important tonight, this Sunday night, to bring onto our show a very well-respected veteran African-American journalist who covers the NBA, predominantly black league. Gary Washburn from the Boston Globe is here, and you have seen so much over the course of your life, but a lot really condensed in these last 2 weeks. Give us your take on what you've witnessed.
Well, I do think that it's heartening to see that so many people who are not African American are kind of understanding the plight that a lot of us go through and have become used to going through on a daily basis, whether it be, kind of a sticky relationship with law enforcement, discrimination, things like that on a daily basis that we've become accustomed to. And I think it's unfortunate that this George Floyd video had to happen, that he died. It's very tragic. But I think what that has done is open people's eyes that this stuff does happen. And it just happened to be on video. It just happened to be where people around put it on video, because this stuff does happen every day. So I think it's good for people to understand and be aware that there's people suffering every day who are not, who have different problems than we do. And that I think this will help us all realize that, we all, everybody has different issues. Everybody has different problems. And we need to be more understanding toward each other. And I think for the 28 NBA teams and many NFL teams, and even Roger Goodell, for goodness sake, release a statement, in saying that, hey, this is wrong. I think that's a first step. We have a long way to go, but I think it's a good first step for people in society, professional sports teams, and athletes to understand that this is the plight that a lot of us go through, and that it can no longer be the same. It has to change.
So today's piece specifically, you focused in on Wyc Grousbeck and the learning process that he's gone through over the last 10 days. Take me through your conversation with Wyc and what you took away from that, because it seems that there's been even more of an enlightening there from his standpoint.
Yeah, he posted a video. He's one of the few owners to post a video. A lot of teams release statements saying we're against discrimination, police brutality, which was admirable. But Wyc was one of the few owners to go live on the video himself and say Black Lives Matter, which I think is significant. Coming from an organization that has made great strides in landmark situations with civil rights, the first African-American coach, with Bill Russell, drafting an African-American player, Chuck Barzel. They have done landmark things in Boston, although Boston doesn't have the greatest reputation in terms of racial, not racial harmony, but racial matters. But I thought it was pretty amazing that Wyc went on air himself with a 19-second video and said Black Lives Matter. And I think that meant a lot to his players, who most of whom are African American, most of whom have probably had issues with law enforcement and discrimination and stereotyping, et cetera, and can maybe understand, and he's trying to understand where they're coming from. And I think that all athletes want, and all people of color want, African American people want, is to try to understand our plight, understand what we go through, and understand that it's different, that it's not the same as other people, that there will be people who will call the cops on us at a park for bird watching, or for sleeping in a college, lounge, things like that. So I think the conversation with Wyc, for me, was great, because it allowed him to express himself and what's going on in his mind. He kind of told me that, he thought he was doing enough, but he knows, as a lot of people are kind of realizing over the last week, that they aren't doing enough, and they aren't as aware as they thought they were.
I think it's going to be very different in 2020 than it was in 2017 regarding how the general public reacts to the professional athlete and how they may protest, whether it be during the anthem or in any other manner. Because you just look at what happened with Drew Brees as an example this week, and the immediate pushback he got from almost everybody across the country. And I wanted to get your thoughts on how he, in essence, kind of the timeline of what we witnessed from Drew Brees, and how that might be an indication of what we should expect moving forward here in 2020.
Yeah, I thought very highly before this of Drew Brees. I thought he was a very admirable player, former NFL Man of the Year, someone who had done a lot for the city of New Orleans after Katrina. And I think that what he did is what a lot of people did, was got the point completely wrong in terms of kneeling and the flag and somehow disrespecting America. And that's not what Colin Kaepernick, and that's not what the players kneeling were trying to do. They were trying to raise awareness to what their experiences are and what they go through, and that was the forum they chose to do it. And so I think Drew Brees got mixed up and then started bringing his grandfathers in, and there's a lot of African Americans and people of color who fought in World War II, who came back to nothing, who came back to the same discrimination from a country that they fought for, they nearly died for, and weren't able to eat certain places, weren't able to buy certain things, weren't able to get small business loans to open up businesses. So I just think it was kind of a misformed statement. He was kind of out in left field in that situation. But I think now him writing a letter to President Trump and kind of apologizing, maybe it took that to make him more aware that, hey, man, like, we understand that it's not, some people take it that it's a diss for the flag, but it's not. I don't think Colin Kaepernick, I don't think they don't love America. I don't think that these people who kneel, they just want to get more awareness to what is going on in this country. And I think the George Floyd video showed that. And I think people, white, black, green, brown, whoever, were horrified at what they saw. A man who was being handcuffed, and the cop was on his neck for 9 minutes. And I think that people kind of finally maybe understood, and maybe, like you said, this isn't 2017, maybe in 2020, they'll understand that this goes on a lot. And a lot of it's not on video. And a lot of times there is no officer video, to see it. It happens, and a lot of times the cops, nothing happens to them. They aren't arrested. Nothing, it's a Tuesday. It's an average day. So I think that what folks of color and African Americans want to make people aware is this happens and needs to change. And I think with Drew Brees, maybe he's made a turn for the better in terms of his enlightenment, because he's got to now explain himself to his teammates. But I think the letter to President Trump said a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope more people get their eyes open like Drew Brees did this week. When you think about who the Celtics have on their roster, how good a job Danny Ainge has done, not just picking talented players in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, most notably, getting Kemba Walker in here. Stand-up guys who are really starting to carve out a niche for themselves here in Boston as difference makers in a city that's going to love athletes that take a stand and make a statement in the tradition of a guy like Bill Russell, who we still see active today in calling out the president. What's your take on what we've seen from Jaylen and Jason, and even Enes Kanter and Marcus and Vincent Poirier? They've been pretty active as well.
I think they're proving that these guys aren't just jocks, that it would be easy for them to say, hey, I've made my money, I am living in a nice house, I can eat good food, I have family and friends around me. All that stuff doesn't really involve me. That was my past when I was young and didn't have money in high school. But these players understand that there's a world that goes on around them outside of basketball. It's not just about getting ready for the season. It's not just about training and keeping your body in shape and all about ball. It's about the world around them. And I think guys like Jaylen and Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum's done some things, and Enes Kanter and Vincent Poirier, for them to just, hey, I'm a man of the people. I want to be amongst my people, giving my say and giving my word and giving my stance and what should change. And I'm about change. And I think that says a lot about these young athletes. I think we tend to try to categorize millennials and people born in the 1990s as all about social media and all about their brand and all about Instagram and looking good in photos. But these guys are thinkers, and these guys understand there's a world that goes on around them. There are people dying every day in the streets from unnecessary crime and murder, and there's mental health issues out there. So there's all types of issues, and I think it's great for these players who are all 20-somethings to understand that there's a world around them. It's not just about basketball and winning games for the Celtics. Of course, that's their main priority. They want to win games, win championships, bring number 18 to Boston, but they also, when it's all said and done, are black men, and Kanter, a Turkish person who deals with maybe discrimination and things every day that they want to make people aware of.
Gary, there's lots of basketball to talk about, but frankly, I'm putting that on the back burner. This is what we should have talked about tonight, and I can't thank you enough for joining us, because your opinion matters, and I really think it was important for so many people to hear from you. So thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.